Mr. Speaker, esteemed colleagues, mga kaibigan at kapwa lingkod bayan, magandang hapon po sa lahat. Today, I rise out of a deep sense of duty to speak about an initiative that we believe holds the power to change lives and transform communities, especially in areas where help is needed the most. This has always been, and this will always be the heart of Tingog's mission, to listen and to serve, nakikinig at nagsisilbi. This is the reason why we are working hard to bring government closer to the people, ensuring that its services reach those at the social, economic, and geographical margins of our country. This initiative that I am referring to is the PhilHealth BBP Tingog Memorandum of Agreement on the Rural Hospital Financing Program, envisioned to be a lifeline for LGU-owned hospitals in rural areas where healthcare is often a distant hope than a present reality. We must face the truth. While the Department of Health funds our regional and apex hospitals, it is the local government units that are tasked with providing primary and secondary level hospital care. Unfortunately, many of these hospitals are left with inadequate resources, unable to improve or expand their services. This has created a dangerous divide where the most vulnerable Filipinos, those living in far-flung areas, find themselves with little to no access to essential health care. Allow me to quote a study by Dr. Esmeralda Silva of the UP Manila Health Policy Development Hub. Quote, as of 2010 in the Philippines, there are 730 government hospitals. These hospitals have a total of 49,372 beds. As of 2011, 83.6% of these hospitals were managed by LGUs. In 2019, there were 146 government-owned hospitals, but the ratio of the Philippine population to government hospital bed is projected to be 229,306 to 1, far below the WHO's recommended 2 beds for every 1,000 population. Let me repeat it. At present, we have only 1 hospital bed for every population of close to 230,000 Filipinos. This glaring disparity speaks volumes about the state of our healthcare system. It tells us that many of our people, our mothers, our children, our elderly, are not getting the care they deserve. However, despite the importance of this initiative, the creation of linkages and collaboration between government agencies has been met with baseless accusations. Accusations that we are violating the Constitution, allegations that we are mismanaging funds, politicizing healthcare, and so on, including unfounded criticism raised in a privileged speech made by a good senator from Davao del Sur, whom I will choose to keep unnamed for reasons of interparliamentary courtesy. These accusations are more than untrue. They distract from the real issue, the urgent need to ensure that every Filipino can access quality health care no matter where they live. Let's unpack these allegations one by one with facts, not speculation. First, on nonpartisanship. One of the criticisms thrown our way is that Tingog's involvement in this program violates the principle of nonpartisanship. Some claim that we are using this initiative for political advantage. Let me make this abundantly clear. Nothing could be further from the truth. Tingog's role in this program is simple and clear: advocacy and assistance. We do not touch the funds. We don't choose which LGUs participate. What we do is help local governments, especially those in rural areas, navigate the tedious process of applying for loans so they can finally upgrade their hospitals. Let me make this clear. The funds are managed by the Development Bank of the Philippines and PhilHealth, both government institutions with strict guidelines. All we're doing is lending a hand to LGUs that don't have the technical capacity to go through these complex processes on their own. Think of it this way. When you see a neighbor struggling to carry a heavy load, do you stand by and watch? Do you turn your back away or do you lend a hand? That is what Tingog is doing, helping lift the weight of LGUs so they can build better hospitals for their communities. Second, on transparency and compliance. Another accusation is that this program lacks transparency and violates procurement and audit laws. Again, this is simply not true. The Development Bank of the Philippines loan program is governed by strict rules, including its own charter and the Government Procurement Reform Act. Any LGU participating in this program is required to comply with these laws. PhilHealth, on the other hand, plays its role as a reimbursement agency for healthcare services. The MOA explicitly ensures that funds are used for their intended purpose, and this is monitored under existing COA guidelines. So what's Tingog's role here? Advocacy. We help LGUs meet requirements such as the preparation of their hospital development plans, as well as their financial and operational feasibility studies. That's it. We're not involved in approving loans, disbursing funds, or handling procurement. Third, on the Universal Health Care Act, some claim that this program contradicts the Universal Health Care Act. But let me ask, how can building or upgrading hospitals contradict a law that's all about universal healthcare access? The reality is this. Universal healthcare sounds great on paper, but it can't succeed without the infrastructure to back it up. How can PhilHealth reimburse hospitals if there are no hospitals to begin with? How can we talk about equity in healthcare when rural areas don't even have basic medical facilities? How can we achieve universal healthcare when rural hospitals are severely unfunded, outdated, and unable to serve their communities? The proposed Rural Hospital Financing Program bridges that gap. It is not a contradiction to UHC. Rather, it is its necessary complement. The program addresses the chronic infrastructure gap that has long plagued our provinces. The UHC can only succeed if there is a strong healthcare infrastructure to support it. Upgrading and building rural hospitals is not just a priority. It is the very foundation upon which the rest of the UHC stands. Fourth, on allegation of politicization. This is perhaps the most painful of all accusations because it undermines the very heart of why we're doing this. Some claim that Tingog is using this program for political purposes. But let me share what we've seen on the ground. When we visit rural communities, we don't see party affiliations. We see mothers traveling kilometers to reach the nearest hospitals. We see children being treated in overcrowded wards. We see the struggles of doctors and nurses trying their best to save lives despite the limited resources. Now, if helping these people is considered politics, then maybe we need more of this kind of politics. Tingog's involvement is not about elections or political gain. It's about advocacy, capacity building, and ensuring that LGUs can access the resources they need to build better hospitals. this is not about us. This is about the people we serve. Mr. Speaker, esteemed colleagues, I agree that we are still a long way in improving our healthcare system, and fixing PhilHealth is at the heart of it. We need to make PhilHealth more efficient and transparent so that with the funds allocated to them, both by our premium contributions and appropriations from the national budget, it can effectively deliver the services that the people have long expected, including full zero balance billing for their hospital expenses. We must likewise hold those in charge accountable for the decisions they have made and for the actions that they have failed to do. We join calls to reform PhilHealth, and we ask Congress to take steps towards that end, including a comprehensive review of the PhilHealth Charter, so that we can finally realize a truly free healthcare service that is accessible for all. But at the same time, we can't allow these challenges, insurmountable may they seem, to hold us back or let politics get in the way. What matters is finding real and durable solutions that address the healthcare problems that the Filipino people face every day. At the end of the day, healthcare isn't just a policy, it's a right. And it's our duty to make it work for everyone. Finally, Mr. Speaker, I understand that criticism is part of public service. But when criticism crosses the line into baseless accusations, it not only disrespects the people behind this program, it also disrespects the people it is designed to help. As the Supreme Court wisely observed in a recent decision, some individuals unscrupulously thrive on the negativity bias of their audience, deliberately spreading shocking or attention-grabbing content for personal gain. They capitalize on the emotional rush that comes with scandal without regard for public good. So to those who are quick to accuse, let us ask you, what have you done to address these inequalities? What solutions have you offered to improve healthcare in rural areas? What have you done to solve these problems? What solutions have you offered to bridge the gap between policy and reality? If the answer is nothing, then let me invite you to join us and be part of the solution. Let's work together to bridge the gap and ensure that all Filipinos, especially those in the countryside, can access the health care they need and deserve. Again, this isn't about Tingog. In fact, this isn't about politics. It's about doing what's right for the people we're elected to serve. Sa anumang hamon ng ating harapin, asahan po ninyo na mananatiling tapat ang Tingog Party List sa aming panata na patuloy na maglingkod, na sa tanang oras at pagkakataon, kami ay makikinig, kami magsisilbi. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, esteemed colleagues, and may we always put the Filipino people at the heart of our public service. Sa muli, maraming salamat po.
Thank you very much. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, may I move that we refer the speech of Representative Jude Asidre to the Committee on Rules for its appropriate action.
Is there any objection? The Chair hears none. The privileged speech of the Honorable Asidre is hereby referred to the Committee on Rules. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, may we acknowledge and welcome to the House of Representatives the guests of our Representative Jude Asidre, representative of the Tingog Party List and our Deputy Majority Leader. His guests are from the Domus Josefi Formation Center of the Seminary of Military Ordinariate of the Philippines. We have Father Christmar Daguno, Brother John Lawrence Tupas, Brother Patrick Carl Avorque, Brother Ian Gabriel Ceblano, Brother Ronald Dalisay, Brother Jason Lucido, Brother Roger Hetajobe Jr., Brother Billy Tablatin Jr., Brother Mark Francis Despuig, and Ariel Guitacan.
To the guests of the Honorable Jude Isidre, welcome to the House of Representatives. Thank you for your visit. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, to proceed with our privilege hour, may we recognize Representative Janet Garin of the 1st District of Iloilo for her privilege speech.
The Honorable Janet Garin is recognized to avail of the privilege hour.
Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues, magandang hapon po sa lahat. I actually have a 3-slide PowerPoint, if I may request the Secretariat to please flash it. Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues, sa mga nakaraang araw na ito, tila rinig na rinig natin ang kaliwat kanang mga hinaing tungkol sa kalusugan. But mind you, Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues, myself being a doctor and being a mother at that, can see the handwritings on the wall. Yung ibang mga ingay ay legitimate naman. Pero karamihan at tila yung mga taong nagpapanggap na eksperto ay halatang-halatang namumulitika. We should stop politicizing public health, and that is why, Mr. Chair, Mr. Speaker, I asked for the indulgence of this august body to take a few minutes of your time to look into the picture of how much and to what extent public health has already been politicized. Next slide, please. Bigla ang lumabas ang kaliwat kanang nagpapa-interview sa media. While doctors are working busy in their clinics, and those in the academe are busy mentoring their students, and scientists are busy in the field and their laboratories, there are just some who love chaos and cannot live if they don't create chaos, pretending to be experts in every aspect of the medical field, where in reality they just want to grab airtime. Kaliwat kanan ang narinig natin na sinasabing, o yung tingog, bakit nakipagpirmahan sa PhilHealth? Hindi dapat makialam ang tingog dyan kasi andyan dyan ang DOH at ang DILG. At hindi dapat pasukin ng bawat kongresista ang problema ng kalusugan. Mr. Chair, distinguished colleagues, this is a twisted interpretation of how legislators should work. Yes, we legislate. We are the voices of our people, but we also look into the gaps that needs our urgent help. Hindi naman sinasabing bawal tumulong ang iba. At yung mga maiingay dyan na nagpapanggap na eksperto, na mga peking eksperto naman, I dare them to come out in the open and do the tasks and the gaps that are present in our current public health system. Why am I doing this, Mr. Speaker? Kasi nakakasama ng loob, especially for some legislators like me who understands what's happening inside. Na politikahin pa ito, ilagay sa headlines at maraming nakikisakay dahil paparating na ang panahon ng eleksyon. Let us talk about universal health care. Kasi Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues, ang daming lumalabas na ang sinasabi, mali yan, mali ito, dapat wala dyan ang mga politiko, dapat wala dyan ang mga elected officials, because we would like to achieve universal health care. In the first place, Mr. Speaker, the law is flawed in the first place. May mga butas at killer provisions ang batas na ito, at itong mga nagpapanggap na ekspertong iba na may ingay ay tila author ng mga naging killer provisions in our universal health care law. I am standing, Mr. Speaker, because I cannot tolerate the hypocrisy that is happening. Sino-sino ba ang nagpasok sa universal health care law ng panukalang batas na instead na DOH ang magpatakbo ng UHC ay PhilHealth? Sino-sino ba yung mga magagaling at nagkunwaring mga eksperto na minandate sa ating bansa na lahat ng gamot, bakuna, and medical devices should pass through phase 4 clinical trials, where in fact, Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues, sa buong bansa, Phase 3A is the proof of safety and efficacy, and Phase 3A is the basis of issuance of the Certificate of Product Registration. Sa madaling salita, Phase 3A ang ginagawang requirement ng buong mundo, including the US and the EU and Japan and Singapore and even all the other 12 WHO-accredited laboratories. Sa madaling salita, linagyan ng probisyon ang universal health care para hindi magamit ni Juan at ni Maria ang mga bagong gamot, kagaya na lang ng mga gamot sa cancer. Linagay ang PhilHealth, that is an insurance policy, as the prime agency in providing universal health care, where in fact, it should be DOH. Ano pang isang butas na linagay doon? Masyadong in-empower ang health technology assessment. Maganda naman ang health technology assessment ng ibang mga bansa. Pero dito sa Pilipinas, na wala ka namang permanenteng mga tao na siya ay nakalodge sa DOST, na ang desisyon niya ay walang sense of urgency at napakatagal. Tila patay na ang kabayo bago pa binigay ang damo. In other words, Mr. Speaker, ang daming gamot, ang daming bakuna, ang daming medical devices na hindi pwedeng bilhin ng gobyerno at lahat tayo ay napipilitang bumili sa pribadong sektor. That is the universal healthcare law that was approved. And that is a fact. Ang tanong, sino ang mga magagaling na nag-insert ng killer provisions na ito? Nagpumalakpak at nagpalakpakan ang madlang people nung sinabing may batas na tayo ng universal healthcare law. Ang tanong, bakit hindi natin ito nararamdaman? Bakit hanggang ngayon napaka-imposibleng maramdaman ng bawat Pilipino ang universal healthcare law? Dahil pampapogi lang ang ginawang batas. Kaakibat ng batas na yon ay ang 2 at 3 killer provisions. Let me move forward, Mr. Chair. Ano ba ang problema ng ating usaping kalusugan? Yes, we have PhilHealth. 3 po ang dapat na major factors and players when we talk about kalusugan. Kalusugang pangkalahatan, universal healthcare. Ano po itong 3? Unang-una, infrastruktura. Pangalawa, healthcare, human resource, personnel. Pangatlo, insurance. Dahil kaakibat ng infrastruktura, building at mga gamit na itatayo ng either national government or local governments because of the law of devolution, dapat may tao yan para paandarin. At kapag umandar na yan, we talk about sustainability. And how can it be sustainable? By PhilHealth. Yan ang totoong mga elemento ng kalusugan. But let us talk about what is the situation in the Philippines. Magtatayo ng mga hospital, pero hirap na hirap ang ibang mga LGUs and even national hospitals. Maglalagay ng mga tao, pero kulang na kulang. At ang pinakapuso ng kalusugan, ang insurance mechanism to make it sustainable, ay nahihirapan. Bakit? Dahil tingi-tingi ang pag-construct ng hospital. Dahil tingi-tingi ang paglagay ng tao. Dahil tingi-tingi ang ginagawa, kaya hindi siya ma-accredit ng PhilHealth. Well, this is a problem at the level of the national government. This is not so much of a big problem. Why? Because in terms of economies of scale and in terms of funding, they are well supported by the national government through the Department of Health. Pero iilan lang ito. 1 o 2 sa bawat rehiyon. Iilan tayo sa buong Pilipinas. Iilan ang ating local government units. Iilan ang ating barangay. Iilan ang ating bayan. And we have a devolved healthcare. Tagalugin na po natin. The power on providing healthcare to our people is actually devolved. Pero tumutulong pa rin ang DOH. Kaya nga, nagkakandahirap ang lahat-lahat. And that is why, when I saw the signing of the Memorandum of Agreement between PhilHealth, DBP and Tingog party list, I told myself, at last, there is somebody who has the political will to carry on the tasks that was supposed to be there, but that was stopped. Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues, I am not standing because the Tingog representative is my colleague and my kababayan. But I am standing simply because we still have not learned from the crab mentality that resides in some of the minds and of the hearts of some fake experts pretending to be health advocates. And why am I saying so? Ano ba ang problema? Pag-usapan natin ang katotohanan. Ilang LGU hospitals ang accredited ng PhilHealth? Ilang city health offices ang accredited ng PhilHealth? Ilang rural health units ang accredited ng PhilHealth? Ilang barangay health station ang accredited ng PhilHealth? Ilang bayan ang may paanakan na accredited ng PhilHealth? Ilang bayan ang may ospital na napupuntahan ng ating kababayan? Why are we afraid to speak the numbers? Dahil yung mga ito ay hindi kinakayanan ang epekto ng devolution. And the mere intention of that memorandum of agreement, as I was seeing it, Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues, is magkaroon ng katulong. May we request the Secretariat to flash the second slide? The next slide, please. Next slide, please. Previews, next slide, please. The summary, next slide, please. Yan. Ang nakalagay sa MOA, ang nakasaad doon ay ang suporta sa local government units by helping them access. The technical assistance that will be provided addresses one of the main bottlenecks of healthcare financing. Alam na alam nating lahat ng mga kongresista dito at alam din ng ating mga kababayan, many of the local government units does not have the technical capability to prepare documents for healthcare borrowings. Financial projections, kaya ba nilang gawin yon? Hospital development, kaya ba nilang gawin yon? Ang pangkaraniwang nangyayari, those who can afford will outsource from technical consultants na napakamahal. Those who can afford will get the inputs of the professionals who are financially literate. Pero pag-usapan natin ang 7 bayan sa aking distrito, ni walang isa doon ang kayang gumawa ng hospital development plan. Kasi nga sa usaping kalusugan, yung nag-iisang doktor doon, siya na ang bahala sa family health, siya ang bahala sa vaccination, siya ang bahala sa preventive healthcare, siya ang bahala sa TB, sa AIDS, sa diabetes, sa hypertension, sa cancer, name it. One-man army ang labas ng ating mga rural health physicians. And here you are, telling the government, bawal ang MOA na yan. Hindi na nga kaya ng ating rural health physician ang kanyang trabaho sa dami ng admin tasks. Ngayon, papagawain mo pa siya ng financial projections, gagawa pa siya ng hospital development plan, pupunta pa siya paulit-ulit sa DBP para defend yung kanyang proposal. Gagawa pa siya ng project proposal at napakaraming papel. Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues, let us not be hypocrites. Let us allow those who would like to help our people. It is not Filipino to be an advocate of crab mentality. It is not Filipino to pretend that you would like to be a health reform advocate where in fact, puro ka lang salita at wala kang gawa. Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues, sino ba dito ang makakapagsabing we are near universal health care? Where in fact, they are not accredited because they need the capital. Ang sinasabi ng iba na namayagpag sa radyo at sa telebisyon noong mga nakaraang araw, andyan naman yung DOH, andyan naman yung DILG. Bakit? Ilan ba sa ating mga bayan at mga probinsya ang tinulungan ng DOH mag-apply ng loan sa financial institutions? Ilan ba sa ating mga bayan, probinsya at syudad ang tinulungan ng DILG para mag-apply ng utang or loans nila para sa kanilang sariling development? In other words, Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues, naiintindihan naman natin ang hinaing ng lahat ukol sa usapang kalusugan. Pero ang hindi ko naiintindihan, ang kaplastikan na nagpapanggap ng mga eksperto, subalit alam natin na isa sila o iisa sila sa mga iilang elemento na sumira sa totoong universal healthcare law. Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues, ang narinig kong paulit-ulit na salita for the past days, DOH should provide all. But Mr. Speaker, health is devolved. Ano ba ang gusto nila? Pagka naman hindi mo sundin ang batas, makukulong ang mga doktor natin sa DOH. Ang sabi pang pangalawa, PhilHealth is being politicized. It is fund meddling. Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues, hindi pa pwedeng wala ang PhilHealth. Dahil ang insurance ang tanging mekanismo that makes health provision sustainable. In other words, pag wala ang PhilHealth, patay ang healthcare facility. And that is why, Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues, yours truly, crafted, is the author of the Medical Assistance Program. Wala pa po ang malasakit, nagsimula po yan sa MAP, or the Medical Assistance Program, which was later on changed in name into Malasakit Program. But it's basically the Medical Assistance Program that I myself crafted, created, had it implemented and funded, and improved when I joined the Department of Health. Mag-allocate daw ng budget. Hindi raw kailangan ang mga MOA na ito. Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues, did we see the trillions needed to establish healthcare facilities all over our country? Kung hihintayin natin na matapos ito na pondohan ng gobyerno, marami na ang namatay or mamamatay. Dahil hindi natin itong kayang tapusin in the immediate vicinity. While millions of Filipinos are being deprived of accessible healthcare simply because we have fake experts and fake advocates who are fond of concocting baseless stories and theories, andi dito tayo natatali sa usaping kalusugan at hindi naman natin pinag-uusapan ang totoong problema. Ang totoong problema, iilan lang ang PhilHealth accredited. Bakit? Hindi kaya ng ating mga lokal na gobyerno na pondohan ito. At kung kaya man nilang pondohan, hindi nila kayang magpasweldo ng mga tao. At kung kaya mang magpasweldo at meron namang infrastruktura at mga gamit, napakabagal naman ng reimbursement. Kaya hindi makaikot at makausad yung ating healthcare facilities. What is wrong with helping them? What is wrong with coming up with an advocacy to help? I challenge the reform and the advocates coming out in media. Walk your talk. Huwag puro daldal, huwag puro salita. Gawa ang kailangan. Kung hindi ba tingog ang nakipagpirmahan doon, mag-iingay ba ng ganito? Kung sila ba ang nakapirma doon sa Memorandum of Agreement, kaliwat kanan ng mga kamera naman ang namayagpag, pero hindi naman ramdam ni Juan at na Maria de la Cruz. If the technical expertise is being offered, I would not put malice on it. Kasi wala ka namang kukunin. Dagdag na trabaho na gagawin ng mga tao at staff mo sa Kongreso. Kung hindi maingay ang politika ngayon kasi mag-ieleksyon, makikigulo ba tayo? On whose expense? Uulit-ulitin ko, Mr. Speaker, walang pinipigilan na tumulong. Walang pinipigilan na mag-assist. Walang pinipigilan na gumawa ng hospital development plan. Walang pinipigilan gumawa ng financial projections. Ang tanging bottleneck lang nito ay yung mga nag-o-offer ay napakamahal ng singil, samantalang yung isa natin ditong kasama ay nakapag-isip na gawin itong libre. At dapat nga marami pa ang gumawa ng ganitong tulong dahil napakarami ng ating mga bayan na kailangang tulungan. Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues, kaming mga taga-probinsya ay witness sa kakulangan ng facilities at pondo para sa kalusugan. Yung mga available na government financial institutions na yan, Ilang ulit ko na yan narinig, simula pa noong 2004, nung ako'y unang natuntong ng Kongreso. At simula pa nung ako'y naging 18 anyos at naging advocate ng kalusugan, naririnig ko na yan palagi. But the main problem is this: once they offer, once the requirements come out, una gagawin ng mga bayan. Pero isa, dalawang requirement, hirap na. And yung ending, walang nakaka-avail. Wala naman silang pondo para kumuha ng napakamahal na mga consultant na gumagawa ng hospital development plan and financial technical documents. Bakit natin ito pipigilan? Anybody is welcome to help. So let us do away with crab mentality. Let us focus on the real problem at hand. Walang universal health care dahil kulang na kulang ang accredited, PhilHealth accredited financial institutions. Mabagal yung pagbayad ng PhilHealth. Kulang ang tulong ng national government kasi napakalawak. And of course, the major predicament is that we are faced with a devolved healthcare. Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues, nung pumutok ang pandemya, nabuksan ang mata at utak ng mga doktor at siyentipiko sa napakalaki naming problema. And this has been thoroughly discussed. In fact, this is a continuing aspect of what we are talking for the past years. And let me point to the term or the word coined as infodemic. Infodemic is defined as the rapid and far spread of both accurate and inaccurate medical information. If I laymanize it, infodemic simply means fake news. Fake medical news, fake medical information, fake medical experts, fake advocates. At ang sabi ng World Health Organization, let us flatten the infodemic curve. Laymanizing it again, ang sabi ng WHO, kung gusto nating maging malusog at maligaya yung ating mga bayan at ating mga probinsya, tutulan natin ang mga peking medical information. Tutulan natin ang mga peking eksperto. Tutulan natin ang mga peking advocates. Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues, puntahan natin ang katotohanan. Yes, we have a universal healthcare law. Maganda pakinggan. Nagpalakpakan si Juan at si Maria. Pero ang katotohanan, this will not deliver healthcare unless we amend that law. Kaakibat doon ang membership ng PhilHealth. Bakit magulo? Kasi hanggang ngayon, hindi na ipagpatuloy yung sinimulan na individual membership ng PhilHealth noong 2016. Nagkaroon ng budget na 80 million, pinutol. Ano po ba yun? Individual membership. Pagkapanganak, miyembro. Pagka namatay, tanggal sa lista. At babayaran yan isa-isa ng ating gobyerno at ng ating mga employers. What does this mean? Mawawala yung mga taong doble or triple ang pag-enroll. Mawawala yung mga taong hindi totoo pero naka-enroll pa rin doon sa PhilHealth because this has been proven time and again. Why can't it be reformed? Because every time an administration changes, the real syndicate inside PhilHealth are all crumbling up. Nakakapasok sa kung sino yung mga nasa poder at bumabalik ulit tayo sa step 1. In other words, every reform that is being initiated ay napapaatras at hindi naaabante dahil sa pagpalit ng administrasyon, umaarangkada ulit yung mga sindikato na nasa loob. With the many problems besetting PhilHealth, specifically on fraud, on a faulty IT, and an unreliable membership list, yours truly put forward a proposal called Medical Assistance Program way back in 2014. Pinalitan ito at naging MAIP, and that was very restrictive because the definition of indigency is very broad. At ngayon nga, gumanda pa ito lalo dahil hindi na lang pang-gobyerno mga facilities, kundi pati na rin ang pribado, specifically in areas that there is no government service with regards to healthcare. And now it is called MAIFIP. Nung nakaraan, yung MAP ay pinalitan ng pangalan, ginawang malasakit. But this was basically the program that I started. And why did I do that, Mr. Chair? Simply because yung bawas ng PhilHealth sa gastusing pangkalusugan ng bawat Pilipino ay napakaliit. Dagdag tayo ng dagdag ng pondo sa PhilHealth, but it does not redound to bigger benefits. Pag dinagdagan naman ang benepisyo, meron namang mga iilang ospital at iilang doktor na lalakihan nila ang individual prices ng kanilang gamot at mga testing and even professional fees. In other words, Mr. Speaker, the medical assistance program was there as an alternative. Why? Dahil hindi ini-invest ang pera sa kung saan-saan para kumita, kundi ginagamit direkta sa tao. Yung bawas sa gastusin, pangkalusugan, ay mas malaki ikumpara sa binabawas ng PhilHealth. It was supposed to be a stepping stone. It was supposed to be a parallel move para instead na napupunta malaking pera at bilyon-bilyon sa PhilHealth, nahati ito at nalalagay sa medical assistance program kung saan mas mabilis at immediate yung discount o yung binibigay na pangbawas sa gastusing kalusugan. In other words, Mr. Chair, this was being done. Why? Because at that time, only 3% of our rural health facilities was PhilHealth accredited. At that time, many of our LGU hospitals had suspended services with PhilHealth dahil kulang ng espesyalista, kulang ng tao, o may kailangan sa infrastruktura. At that time, 0.8% of our barangay health stations were accredited. At kaya nga lumabas ang ating financial institutions, Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues, para bigyan ng breathing space yung ating mga LGUs at gawing accredited yung kanilang mga facilities. But again, the bottleneck of technical requirements, hospital development plan, financial projections, at yung lahat pa na kailangang gawin, ay yun naman ang naging problema nito. Kaya nga, Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues, it would have been better that instead of criticizing the MOA entered into by DBP, PhilHealth, and Tingog Party List, sana naging ehemplo ito sa iba para tumulong din. Mr. Speaker, ang kalusugan ay dapat hindi pinupolitika. Nakatatak sa puso at isipan ng bawat pamilyang Pilipino ang kalusugan. And that is why it is the very core and the very topic that is always attacked by fake experts and fake advocates, using it to cloak their real intent, which is actually politicking. Kaya naman, ang kalusugan ang siyang naging pinto na pinapasok at landas na tinatahak ng mga taong mapanira, cloaked in the guise of being a health advocate. Subalit ang katotohanan ay umaalingas-ngas, na itong maiingay ay para lamang punahin ang magandang intensyon ng iba. Yung makita sila, makapagsalita sila, makuha ang atensyon ng iba, mamayagpag yung kanilang pagiging lobbyist, but at the same time, Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues, ilang magagandang batas ang nasira dahil sa fake experts na lumalaganap sa ating bansa. Ilang mga totoong doktor at scientist ang sinira ng ibang mga walang magawa, kundi gusto lamang magkaroon ng airtime. Ilang mga tao ang gustong tumulong, pero natatakot na lamang dahil baka punahin at mapolitika yung kanilang intensyon. But at the end, Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues, the real losers are the Filipino people. Let's all stand up to curb, if not crush, infodemic. Let us all stand up to criticize fake experts and fake advocates. There should be no tolerance for crab mentality in the name of health. There should be full accountability among people who twist information, confuse the public, and lambast public health because they are not worth being called Filipinos. Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues, with all intention, I appeal to all of you that we work together. Crush hypocrisy. Maraming salamat, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we refer the speech of the Honorable Janet Garin to the Committee on Rules for its appropriate action.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The privileged speech of the Honorable Garin is hereby referred to the Committee on Rules. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we recognize the Honorable Erwin Tulfo of the ACT-CIS party list to avail of the privilege hour.
The Honorable Erwin Tulfo is recognized to avail of the privilege hour.
Mr. Speaker, members of the esteemed chamber, I rise today on a different matter, a critical matter concerning Section 21 of Republic Act number 9165, or the Comprehensive Dangerous Drugs Act of 2002, which mandates the inclusion of media representatives as signatories in the inventory of confiscated drug-related items. While this provision was crafted to enhance transparency in anti-drug operations, I submit that it is time for us to revisit and devolve this responsibility to better suited entities, Mr. Speaker. The inclusion of media representatives represents or presents significant challenges and risks. Media practitioners who are civilians are placed in potentially life-threatening situations when required to participate in such operations. Exposing them to these risks compromises not only their safety, but also that of their families, Mr. Speaker. Moreover, involving media representatives in law enforcement tasks raises concerns about their independence and neutrality. Journalists are meant to act as impartial watchdogs of government actions, holding public officials accountable from an objective stance. Requiring their direct participation, Mr. Speaker, in these operations undermines their role and may cast doubt on their credibility and impartiality. It is imperative that we devolve this responsibility to more appropriate witnesses who are already empowered under the law. Section 21 of RA 9165 already mandates the presence of Department of Justice representatives and barangay officials as witnesses in this process, Mr. Speaker. These individuals are better suited to fulfill the role of ensuring transparency and accountability in documentation of confiscated drug-related items. Additionally, we can enhance existing safeguards to further promote transparency without involving media personnel. Like comprehensive video documentation can serve as a reliable and tamper-proof record of the inventory process, ensuring accountability without requiring physical witness to be present in dangerous environments. Increased training and oversight for DOJ and barangay representatives can strengthen their ability to act as effective witnesses. By devolving, Mr. Speaker, this responsibility to individuals already mandated and equipped for this role, we can preserve the safety of our media professionals, uphold journalistic independence, and maintain the integrity of anti-drug operations. Mr. Speaker, I urge this esteemed chamber to consider an amendment to Section 21 of Republic Act 9165, replacing media representatives with more suitable alternatives while reinforcing mechanisms for accountability and transparency. Let us act decisively to modernize this law and ensure its implementation aligns with our commitment to safety, justice, and good governance. Thank you, Mr. Speaker and my colleagues, and I look forward to our deliberations on this matter soon. Maraming salamat po, magandang hapon sa ating lahat.
Thank you very much. Daghang salamat. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we recognize the Honorable Richard Gomez of the 4th District of Leyte for his interpellation.
The Honorable Richard Gomez is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Magandang hapon po sa inyo lahat. I'd like to find out if the good Congressman from ACT Party List would like to answer some of my questions regarding his privileged speech.
Sure, Mr. Speaker and my colleague.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to find out from the good Congressman if you are a member of the Anti-Drugs Committee.
No, I am not, my distinguished colleague. I am not a member of any committee right now since I am part of the deputy majority group, Mr. Speaker.
And if you are a, what were you again, Mr. Speaker?
Deputy Majority Floor Leader, Mr. Speaker.
Deputy Majority Floor Leader. I am very sure, Mr. Speaker, that you know very well that the Committee on Anti-Drugs is very active on RA 9165.
I am aware, Mr. Speaker.
Oh, you are aware, Mr. Speaker. Thank you. If you are aware, Mr. Speaker, then what was the purpose of the privileged speech?
I don't know if my distinguished colleague was present when I was mentioning an amendment on Section 21 of RA 9165, particularly exempting the media from being signatories in drug-related operations, particularly on confiscated items, Mr. Speaker.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The reason why I wanted to ask the good gentleman is because, you know, RA 9165 was passed already in the last Congress. And during this Congress, it has also been amended. And in Section 21 of RA 9165, I don't know if the good gentleman is aware, the Deputy Majority Floor Leader is aware that Section 21 has been taken up.
Can you repeat that, Mr. Speaker?
Tagalogin ko po. Aware po ba tayo na yung Section 21 po, ito po ay tinitake up po dun sa amendments natin sa RA 9165 in the committee.
Kaya nga po, Mr. Speaker, kailangan natin balikan at bilis-bilisan po ang problema po natin sa Kongreso. Kaya po tayo napupulaan ng mga kababayan natin. Napakarami natin mga batas na kailangang ayusin, subalit hindi po naaayos, kaya kailangan po natin bilis-bilisan. Kung ito po ay na-take up, sana po ay mabilisan pa para kaagad po ito ay ma-review at magawan po natin ng paraan dahil ito po ay kahilingan ng mga kasamahan po ng ating 4th Estate, Mr. Speaker.
Tama po. Napakaganda pong suggestion po niyan. Since kayo po ay malakas po sa Senado, baka pwede pong sila pong sabihan ninyo dahil wala po tayong counterpart sa Senado. Tapos na po tayo sa amendments natin. At yung pong privilege speech niyo kanina, pagtanggal po ng media personalities, pag dumarating ang inventory time, pag mayroong buy-bust, wala na po sa provision.
Pagdating ho natin doon, Mr. Speaker, we will do that. But for now, we really have to look into this, maybe push on and convince our counterparts in the Senate to pass this law immediately.
Matatagalan pa po tayo kasi dadaan pa po tayo ng eleksyon. Pag hinintay po natin na umabot kayo ng Senado, ay isang taon na naman po yun. Congratulations po at inamin nyo na talagang panalo na kayo sa Senado. I'm very happy that a colleague of ours will be in the Senate soon. Pero ibabalik ko lang po, Mr. Senator, na ito pong hinihiling ninyo na tanggalin natin or i-amend natin sa Provision 21 of RA 9165, matagal na po naming tinabaho ito sa aming komite at tinanggal po talaga po namin to. Ang tanging hiling namin, katulad din ng hinihiling ninyo, sana nga po mapabilis natin ito sa Senado. Dahil sa Senado po, hindi ko alam, pero baka pwedeng kayo na po ang magsalita. Baka pwedeng kayo na mag-privilege speech. Pakisabi na bilis-bilisan po para itong hinihiling natin na ma-amend itong Section 21 ay matapos na.
Alam niyo ho, I will just have to correct my colleague. Hindi pa po ako senador, Your Honor. Ako po ay isang mambabatas, ako po ay isang representative, hindi pa po ako senador. Do, tumatakbo po ako senador, nais ko lamang po linawin na ako po ay isang congressman.
Correct.
Ako po ay member ng ACT-CIS party list at hindi po ako senador. Baka ang inyo po ibig sabihin, yung aking po nakatatandang kahuya po, siya po yung senador. Pangalawa, kaya ako nga po pinapabilis-bilisan para marinig po tayo sa Senado. Nabilis-bilisan po nila dahil ito po ay hindi pa naman batas. Habang ito hindi pa batas, ala hong saysay ang pagre-review, wala hong saysay ang pagtanggal ho natin ng section na yan, Section 21, kung hindi pa naman po ito batas. What I am trying to point out, Mr. Speaker, I guess we have to do something about it. And para marinig ko, kaya ho tayo nagka-privilege speech para marinig po tayo sa Senado. Now, we are waiting for the decision, Mr. Speaker. If I can only do a privilege speech in the Senate, then I will do so. Unfortunately, I'm still here, a member of 19th Congress, Mr. Speaker.
Salamat. Salamat, Mr. Congressman. Sinabi ko lang po yung sinabi niyo na gagawin niya pagdating niyo po sa Senate, inulit ko lang. But Mr. Congressman, we do something about it. We have done something about it. In the committee level, ito pong Section 21 na hinihiling ninyo ay wala na po.
Alam niyo ho, Mr. Speaker, ito po ay nasa committee level at tulad po na sinasabi ko, kaya ko nga po I am pushing for it. Bilis-bilisan po natin. Marami po tayo mga batas na pending po ngayon. Hindi lang po itong 9165. Marami pong kailangang revisahin, reviewin. Ang kailangan lang po natin ay bilisan po dahil ang taong bayan ay nag-aantay po at hindi po tayong ika nga ay pwedeng manahimik o kaya mag-relax dahil po nakatingin po sa atin ang ating mga kababayan at gusto po nila na bilisan ang pagpasa, pag-review, whatever, ang ng mga batas po natin, Mr. Speaker.
Therefore, Mr. Speaker, I think the correct manifestation should be, since the requested section is to be amended, and it has been replaced already, Mr. Speaker, is that the correct manifestation should be, we request that the Senate should fast-track this House version of RA 9165. That, I think, is the correct manifestation, Mr. Chair.
I will take that, Mr. Speaker, but what I am saying is that the reason why I stood up today to remind not only our members here, but also our counterpart in the Senate, because I am sure they're also reviewing what we're doing here and watching us, to fast track. Kung meron man, kung nandyan na po sa kanilang mga kamay, na bilisan because we cannot dictate them. We can only suggest, Mr. Speaker. We can only tell them. and inform the public that we already did this. Tama po ang ating kasamahan na sinasabi niya pong ni-review na po yan, inalis na po yan, para malaman po ng taong bayan na wala na po yan, wala na sa kamay natin, yan po ay nasa kamay na ng Senado para bilis-bilisan po nila. And that is the purpose of my privileged speech this afternoon, Mr. Speaker, my dear colleague. Sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Oh, I thought amending Section 21 was the main thrust of the privileged speech. I didn't know it was to fast track the House version of 9165. But nevertheless, Mr. Chair, yun na rin po ang hinihiling natin. Since yung nire-request po ng colleague natin na tanggalin po sa Section 21, yung pagsama ng media kapag po nag-iimbentary sa mga bypass, sa mga nahuli na ay wala na po sa committee level. Wala na po, pumasa na po sa atin. Sana po, another privilege speech from our good colleague will tell the Senate, bilis-bilisan nyo naman, kasi binilisan na po namin.
I wish I can, we will do that, Mr. Speaker, para makarating po itong ating mensahe sa kanila. Hindi naman natin pwede sila pong utusan, Mr. Speaker, kundi tayo lamang po ay pwede nating sabihin na nag-aantay po tayo. Kung naipasa na po natin dito sa Kongreso, then ang problema po ay nandoon. I guess we'll have to do, or I have to make another privileged speech, Mr. Speaker.
We shall await the next privileged speech. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Congressman.
Maraming salamat po. Magandang hapon.
Thank you very much. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we refer the speech of the Honorable Erwin Tulfo together with its interpellation to the Committee on Rules for its appropriate action.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The privileged speech, together with the interpellation of Honorable Gomez, is hereby referred to the Committee on Rules. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we extend the privilege hour for 1 more hour.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The motion of the Majority Leader is hereby approved. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we recognize the Honorable Bonifacio Busita of One Rider Party List to avail of the privilege hour.
The Honorable Bonifacio Busita is hereby recognized to avail of the privilege hour.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, sa ating mga kasama, maraming salamat po at magandang araw sa ating lahat. Mr. Speaker, ang ating paglilingkod ay makikita at mararamdaman ng taong bayan sa pamamagitan ng ating mga gawa at hindi lamang sa ating mga salita. Ang ipapahayag ko po ngayon ay nangangailangan ng agarang pansin at aksyon dahil marami na ang mga nabiktima dito at patuloy pang dumadami ang mga nabibiktima. Marami na po tayong mga batas, magaganda at talaga namang kahanga-hanga ang galing ng mga gumawa nito. Pero marami dito ang hindi na ipapatupad ng tama at nagdudulot ng perwisyo at pabigat sa buhay ng marami nating mga kapwa Pilipino. Mr. Speaker, isa po sa mga ito ang ipinatutupad ng LTO, the Republic Act 10930, an act rationalizing and strengthening the policy regarding driver's license by extending the validity period of driver's licenses and penalizing acts in violation of its issuance and application amending for those purposes Section 23 of Republic Act 4136 as amended by Batas Pambansa Bilang 398 and Executive Order Number 1011, otherwise known as the Land Transportation and Traffic Code. Mr. Speaker, maganda po ang layunin ng mga authors ng Republic Act 10930 at ito po ay ang mga sumusunod. Una, hangad nila na mabigyan ng 10 taong validity ng lisensya sa pagmamaneho ang mga drivers na hindi magkakaroon ng paglabag sa loob ng 5 taong validity ng kanilang naunang lisensya. At ang ikalawa, magkaroon ng maayos at istriktong sistema ang LTO sa pagkakaloob ng lisensya sa pagmamaneho sa mga kumukuha nito. Ganyan po kaganda ang layunin ng mga authors ng Republic Act 10930. Ngunit, dahil sa Implementing Rules and Regulations, IRR, na inilabas ng DOTR noong 2019, marami ang mga kapwa nating Pilipino ang tinatanggalan ng LTO ng lisensya sa pagmamaneho. Resulta nito, marami na po ang mga truck drivers at mga bus drivers ang nawalan ng trabaho. Sa loob lamang po ng kasalukuyang taon, 2024, ang LTO ay nakapagtala ng 239 na mga drivers na tinanggalan ng lisensya sa pagmamaneho batay sa demerit system na itinakda ng IRR ng Republic Act 10930. Patunay po dito, Mr. Speaker, marami ng mga truck operators at mga bus operators ang dumadaing dahil marami na sa kanilang mga driver ang tinanggalan ng LTO ng lisensya sa pagmamaneho. Mr. Speaker, nirerespeto po natin ang ating mga kapwa public servants, pero hindi natin maaaring hayaan ang anumang mali na pagpapatupad ng batas. Higit nating dapat pahalagahan ang panig at katwiran ng bawat Pilipino na kailangan nating protektahan at paglingkuran alinsunod sa ating mga mandato. Kailangan po nating gamitin ang ating kapangyarihan na ipinagkaloob sa atin ng batas at ng mga nagluklok sa atin dito sa Kongreso. Kailangan po nating ripasuhin ang ipinatutupad ng LTO na IRR ng Republic Act 10930 base sa mga sumusunod. Una, walang batas na nag-uutos at walang sapat na batayan ang IRR ng Republic Act 10930 para magpataw ng dobleng demerits sa bawat paglabag ng mga drivers ng mga pampublikong sasakyan kumpara sa mga demerits na ipinapataw nila sa mga drivers ng mga pribadong sasakyan. Ikalawa, labag po sa ating saligang batas ang pagpapataw ng LTO ng outright revocation ng lisensya ng mga drivers na pinapatawan nila ng 40 demerits. Ito po ay walang due process. Ito po ay walang due process. Ikatlo, sobra po ang parusa na ipinapataw ng LTO sa mga drivers na tinatanggalan nila ng lisensya sa pagmamaneho dahil sila po ay pinagmulta na ng LTO ng malalaking halaga sa bawat violation o paglabag na inakusa sa kanila. Ikaapat, Mr. Speaker, hindi lamang mga drivers na tinatanggalan ng LTO ng lisensya ang kanilang pinaparusahan. Pinaparusahan din po nila ang pamilya ng mga drivers na nawawalan ng hanap buhay dahil dito. Ikalima, napeperwisyo rin po ang mga trucking company at mga bus company na nawawalan ng mga drivers resulta ng ganitong pagpapatupad ng LTO. Ika-anim, Mr. Speaker, sisirain din ng ganitong pagpapatupad ng LTO ang ating ekonomiya kung patuloy ang pagdami ng mga truck drivers at mga bus drivers ang nawawalan ng lisensya sa pagmamaneho. Mr. Speaker, hindi po natin maaring kalimutan na malaki ang ambag ng mga truck drivers at mga bus drivers sa pag-usad ng ekonomiya sa ating bansa. Paulit-ulit at maraming beses na nating napatunayan na maraming kawani ng ating pamahalaan ang kulang ang kaalaman sa tamang pagpapatupad ng batas at mga ordinansa para sa mga motorista. Dahil dito, Mr. Speaker, marami sa ating mga kababayang motorista ang nahuhuli, napapatawan ng malalaking halaga ng multa at napapatawan ng patong-patong na demerits ng LTO kahit na sila po ay tunay na wala namang paglabag. Mr. Speaker, kaugnay po sa aking mga nabanggit, kami po sa One Rider Party List kasama si Honorable Congressman Rose Gutierrez ay nagsumite ng House Resolution number 2135, Resolution directing the Committee on Transportation to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the propriety and reasonableness of the point system being implemented by the Land Transportation Office. Mr. Speaker, at sa ating mga kasama, maraming salamat po.
Thank you very much. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we refer the speech of the Honorable Bonifacio Busita to the Committee on Rules for its appropriate action.
Is there any objection? Chair hears none. The privileged speech of the Honorable Bonifacio Busita is hereby referred to the Committee on Rules. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we recognize the Honorable Raul Daniel Manuel of the Kabataan Party List to avail of the privilege hour.
The Honorable Raul Daniel Manuel is recognized to avail of the privilege hour.
Salamat, Mr. Speaker. Tumatayo ako rito bilang kinatawan ng kabataan para ibahagi ay isang nakakalungkot at nakakagalit na sinapit na ating kapwa kabataan aton nga kasimanwa sa probinsya sang Iloilo. Trigger warning po, this speech contains mentions of suicide. Nito lamang December 13, 2024, 3 days ago, ibinalita ng Bombo Radio Iloilo ang pagkamatay ni JP Mombay, isang third-year criminology student mula sa Pasig City College sa probinsya ng Iloilo. Ayon sa ulat, kinitil ni JP ang kanyang sariling buhay dahil sa matinding depression, which was attributable to his experiences as an ROTC Corps Commander. Kasama doon ang hazing na ginawa sa kanya ng mga kasapi ng Reserve Officers Training Corps or ROTC program. Ngayon, nananawagan ang kanyang pamilya ng hustisya. Mr. Speaker, mariing kinokondena ng representasyon ng kabataan ang pang-aabuso at pambubugbog kay JP Mombay na nagdulot ng pagkitil niya sa kanyang sariling buhay. Malinaw sa atin ito, walang puwang ang hazing sa loob ng mga eskwelahan. Mga kapwa ko mambabatas, pinapakita nito na kahit Corps Commander na ang ranggo ni JP, naging biktima pa rin siya ng pambubugbog na nagtulak sa kanya para magpakamatay. Kaya naman, hindi po natin ito maisasantabi at maituturing na isolated case lamang. Kabilang si JP sa maraming nakasama dun sa mahabang listahan ng mga biktima ng pang-aabuso at karahasan sa ilalim ng programang ROTC. Noong panahon na mandatory ito at kahit ngayon sa mga taong optional na lamang ito. Sobrang nakakalungkot po na merong sumunod kay Mark Wilson Chua, ROTC officer mula sa Universidad ng Santo Tomas na namatay noong 2001. Pinapatunayan ng pagkasawi ni Mark Wilson Chua at ngayon naman ni JP Mombay na kahit ang mga nasa katungkulan sa ROTC ay hindi ligtas mula sa kultura ng karahasan at impunidad sa programang kanilang pinasukan. Sa kabila nito, Mr. Speaker, itinutulak ng administrasyon ni Marcos Jr. ang pagbabalik ng mandatory ROTC para di umano maikintal muli ang disiplina at patriotismo sa hanay ng kabataan. Sa gitna ng krisis sa edukasyon, kasama pa sa priority bills ni Marcos Jr. ang mandatory ROTC, habang binabarat naman ang pondo ng DepEd, CHED at ng state universities and colleges. Mr. Speaker, paano aasahang magturo ng disiplina ang mga taong walang disiplina at paggalang sa kapakanan at buhay ng iba. Paano magtuturo ng pagmamahal sa bayan ang mga taong hindi nagmamahal at hindi kumakalinga sa mga pag-asa ng bayan, mga kabataan? Anong klaseng disiplina at patriotismo ang itinuturo sa kabataan kung sinasadlak sila sa abusong pisikal at psikolohikal? Anong mga aral ang mapupulot ng kabataan kung ang matutunghayan o mararanasan nila ay pagsasamantala ng mga nasa kapangyarihan? Ang trauma na idinulot ng hazing kay JP ay sintomas ng mas malubhang sakit na dinaramdam ng mga mag-aaral sa ilalim ng mga programang direktang hinahawakan ng mga puwersa ng militar. Silang may kasaysayan at nagpapatuloy na praktika ng karahasan at impunidad. Dahil dito, tumitindig ang kabataan na ang pagtutulak ni Marcos Jr. na ibalik ang mandatory ROTC ay magpapalala lamang sa kultura ng karahasan at impunidad sa mga campus. Hindi dapat pahintulutan na ibalik ang mandatory ROTC na lalo lamang mamiminsala sa ating mga mag-aaral, partikular sa kanilang kalusugang pisikal at kalusugang pangkaisipan. Pinapakita rin sa atin, Mr. Speaker, nitong nangyari kay JP Mumbai, na may mga butas pa rin sa mga polisiyang mangangalaga sana sa kapakanan ng ating mga kabataan at estudyante, tulad ng Anti-Hazing Law of 2018. Sa ilalim ng batas na ito, hindi itinuturing na hazing ang mga babansagang testing and training of procedures, o yung mga sinasabi nilang pagsasanay, procedures and practices to determine and enhance the fitness of prospective regular members of AFP and PNP. Ibig sabihin, sino mang sangkot sa hazing ng ROTC cadets na hinahanda di umano para maging bahagi ng regular force ng AFP ay hindi po mapapanagot sa ilalim ng batas na ito. Alinsunod dito, ipinapanawagan natin ang mga sumusunod na konkretong aksyon. Una, ang pag-review sa Anti-Hazing Law of 2018, lalo na sa maluwag na pagtrato nito sa mga abuso ng militar at pulis. Pangalawa, ang agaran at masinsing investigasyon sa hazing incident kay JP Mumbai sa ROTC program ng Pasig City College sa Iloilo. Pangatlo, ang pagpapanagot sa lahat ng matatagpuang may sala sa pambubugbog kay JP Mumbai at sa lahat ng iba pang biktima ng pang-aabuso sa ilalim ng ROTC. At pang-apat, ang pag-abandona ng Senado at ng Administrasyong Marcos Jr. sa mga panukalang ibalik ang mandatory ROTC. Mr. Speaker, at sa mga kapwa ko mambabatas, huwag po nating hayaang dumami pa ang mga tulad ni JP Mumbai at Mark Welson Chua. Sana ay masuportahan po natin ang House Resolution na ihahain ng representasyong ito upang isulong ang mga panawagang nabanggit. Nararapat lamang na imbestigahan natin ang mga abuso sa kabataan upang makalikha tayo ng mga batas na tunay na maglilingkod sa kanilang interes. Panghuli, Mr. Speaker, panawagan po natin sa mga kapwa kabataan na kasalukuyan ay nasa ROTC program o kahit yung mga nagbabalak na mag-enroll sa ROTC dahil yon ay kanilang personal na kagustuhan. Kung meron po kayong malaman o maranasan man ng mga abuso, hazing o ano pang forma ng karahasan kaugnay ng ROTC program o ginawa ng mga bahagi ng militar, huwag po kayong matakot o mahiya na iulat iyan sa ating tanggapan. Sana ay malaman po ninyo na kung meron po kayong maranasan o marinig man na hindi maganda sa ilalim ng programa, hindi po kayo nag-iisa. Meron po kayong mga pwedeng makasama. Magtulungan po tayo para tiyakin ang mga makabuluhang reforma at para matapos na ang sistema at ang kultura ng impunity sa ilalim ng naturang programa. Yun lamang, Mr. Speaker. Maraming salamat.
Thank you very much. Shorty Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we refer the speech of the Honorable Raul Daniel Manuel to the Committee on Rules for its appropriate action.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The privileged speech of the Honorable Raul Manuel is hereby referred to the Committee on Rules. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we recognize the Honorable Robert Ace Barbers of the 2nd District of Surigao del Norte to avail of the privilege hour.
The Honorable Robert Ace Barbers is recognized to avail of the privilege hour.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Majority Leader. Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues, I rise today on a question of personal and collective privilege. I will deliver most of my speech in Tagalog so that more people will understand what I am going to talk about, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as we all remember, it started in the early 2000s when China sought permission from the Philippine government for joint exploration for mineral resources in our territorial seas. Nagulat na lamang tayo isang umaga paggising natin noong 2012 dahil inukupa na ng China ang Scarborough Shoal na nasa loob ng ating territorial seas. Ang sabi nila, kanila daw, yun at ang basihan ay ang historic rights. Historic rights daw na ang ibig sabihin ay mula pa noong unang panahon, nangingisda, dumadaan at naglalayag sila sa ating karagatan kung kaya't kanila daw ang Scarborough Shoal. Maraming lahi ang nangingisda, dumadaan at naglalayag sa karagatang ito mula pa noong unang panahon, hindi lamang mga Chino, Mr. Speaker. Hindi po maaaring maging basihan ng China o ng China ang tinatawag na historic rights. Lahat po ito ay napalitan na ng mga batas at tratado o treaties sa makabagong panahon. Lahat itong mga batas at treaties ay kinakailangan upang maglagay ng kaayusan sa buong mundo at mahinto ang mga kaguluhan. Isa sa mga treaties na ito ay ang United Nations Convention on the Law of the Seas o ang tinatawag nating UNCLOS. Ito po ay sinalihan at nilagdaan ng maraming bansa, kabilang tayo at ang China. Dito itinakda na ang bawat bansa, kamukha natin, ay may tinatawag na 12 nautical mile territorial sea. At bukod dito, binigyan din ang mga bansa na katulad natin na napapaligiran ng dagat ng 200 milyang karagatan na tinatawag natin na exclusive economic zone. Ang ibig sabihin po nito, Mr. Speaker, ay sa atin lamang eksklusibo ang lahat ng lamang dagat at likas yaman kasama na ang mga langis at iba pang makukuha sa loob at ilalim ng teritoryong ito. Inuulit ko, ang Pilipinas at China ay parehong sumang-ayon at lumagda sa kasunduang ito. Bukod sa UNCLOS, Mr. Speaker, ang Pilipinas ay nagwagi sa International Arbitral Tribunal sa The Hague, Netherlands, kung saan pinagtibay ang sinasabi ng UNCLOS. Hindi lamang yan, sinabi pa ng Arbitral Tribunal na kathang-isip lamang ang 9-dash line ng China. Kaya ngayon, dalawang katibayan na ang ating pinanghahawakan sa mata ng buong mundo at sa mata ng batas. Dahil dito, Mr. Speaker, nararapat na ipaglaban natin ang ating mga karapatan na pinagtibay ng mga kasulatang ito. Ngayon, ang tanong, sa tuloy-tuloy na panggugulo, panghihimasok, pangbubuli, at pananakit sa atin ng China sa loob ng mga teritoryong nabanggit, ano ang dapat nating gawin? Ang pinaka-minimum na magagawa natin ay ipahayag ng malaya at walang takot ang ating mga karapatan ayon sa mga batas. Ikalawa, magkaisa tayo sa pagkondena ng mga karahasan na ginagawa sa atin ng China. Hindi tayo dapat magsawa sa pagkondena at pagpapahayag sa buong mundo ng kanilang mga hindi tamang gawain at panghihimasok sa ating teritoryo. Mula sa pag-angkin ng mga lupain at teritoryo sa West Philippine Sea hanggang sa pananakit nila sa ating mga kababayan na nangingisda at naglalayag doon at sa kanilang pambubuli at paninira ng ating mga sasakyang pandagat. Ilang taon na tayong nagtitiis, Mr. Speaker. Hindi na nga natin mabilang ang kanilang paninira at pananakit na ginagawa. Noong isang linggo lamang, ilang mga barko ng ating gobyerno na pag-aari ng Bureau of Fisheries ang kanilang sinira sa pamamagitan ng water cannon at laser. Walang katumbas sa salita ang mga hindi makataong ginagawa nila sa atin. Walang katapusan ang pagtataboy sa ating mga mangingisda sa sarili nating teritoryo. Ang pagsira ng kanilang mga maliliit na bangka na hindi naman threat o banta sa kanila, ang palaging pagbangga, pagsira at pag-water cannon sa ating mga sasakyang pandagat na naglalayag at nagbabantay lamang sa ating teritoryo. Ilang uniforme na mga sundalong Tsino ang natatagpuan at nakukuha ng ating mga otoridad mula sa mga inuupahang apartments at gusali ng mga Tsinong sinasabing empleyado ng Pogo at kamakailan lamang sa mga barko naman na kunwari ay nagde-dredging sa ating mga karagatan. Lahat ng ito, Mr. Speaker, ay nangyayari kasabwat ang marami nating mga kababayan. Ang pinakamasakit sa lahat, Mr. Speaker, mismong mga kababayan natin ang nagtatanggol pa sa kanila. Meron sa ating paligid ang mga tinatawag na mga bagong makapili. Sa pansariling kadahilanan, mariin nilang sinasabi na walang masama sa ginagawa ng China sa pag-angkin ng mga teritoryo natin at dapat daw ay makipagdialogo tayo upang malutas ng mahinahon ang usaping ito. Hindi ba nila nakita ang ilang beses na pakikipag-usap natin sa mga leader ng China? Ano ba ang naging tugon nila? Iisa lamang, amin ang buong karagatan, pati ang buong Pilipinas, amin yan, base sa historic rights, ang tugon ng China. At ang gusto ng China ay ibasura natin ang arbitral award bago nila tayo kausapin at harapin. Kung kaya naman po, Mr. Speaker, ako ay nananawagan, lalo na sa inyong mga bayarang trolls at vloggers who until this time prefer to take the side of China. Let us all unite, set all our sights towards the enemy, and have a common narrative for our freedom, sovereignty, and love of country. Hindi po tayo kinakailangan makipagdigmaan sa China upang mapanindigan natin ang ating mga karapatan. We only need to speak with one strong voice, take a common stand, a strong conviction, believe in ourselves, not for our individual selfish interests, but for the country, for our people, and for peace and prosperity of the future generations. Huwag na kayong biglaang magpanggap na experts in international law, o kaya biglang naging magagaling na mga political analyst, o kaya biglang nabuhay ang matagal nang nananahimik na karir sa media at biglang naging expert analyst. Lahat ay naging desusi, Mr. Speaker. Makonsensya naman sila. Ang kapalit ng pera-pera nyo ay ang buong bayan natin. Kayong mga trolls at vloggers na binabayaran ng mga sindikato ng China, alam nyo bang galing sa iligal na droga at pogo ang mga binabayad sa inyo para lamang ipakalat ninyo ang mga fake news? Droga at pogo na sumisira sa ating mga kabataan, kababayan at sa buong bayan. Wala ba kayong konsensya na kasama kayo sa mga sumisira sa ating lahat? Mas naniniwala pa kayo sa propaganda ng China kaysa sa nakikita ng inyong mga mata na kasamaang kanilang ginagawa sa ating mga kababayan. Yung mga illegal na droga na pinapakalat dito sa atin, sa China nanggagaling. Yung mga pogo, puro pag-aari din nila at kunwari ay totoo. Yung pala ay sentro ng krimen at hugasan ng pera mula sa illegal na aktibidades, lalong-lalo na ang illegal na droga. sa ginagawang ninyong pagtataksil sa bayan. I am certain, Mr. Speaker, that our heroes are turning in their graves. Kung ayaw ninyong tawagin kayong traidor o bagong makapili, patunayan ninyo na kayo ay hindi bayaran ng mga sindikato ng China. Imbes na fake news at propaganda ng China ang pinapakalat ninyo, sila ang kalabanin ninyo. Araw-araw mababasa ninyo ang mga ginagawang pang-aapi sa atin. Huwag kayong magbulag-bulagan o masilaw sa salapi saan mang galing ang mga yan. Mahalin natin ang ating bayan dahil iisa lamang po ito. Mr. Speaker, I do not believe that China will wage war against us because we sided with our Western allies. This is the propaganda of the bagong makapili. As a matter of fact, we achieved quite the opposite. We are now actually benefiting from the alliance as we have received modern defense equipment, training, and protection. Just recently, we almost surrendered our sovereignty to China and almost pleaded with them to annex us as a province. It is good that this did not happen, Mr. Speaker, perhaps due to lack of material time. Otherwise, we could be engaged in a bloody civil war by now. Swerte tayo na meron tayong Diyos at hindi niya tayo pinapabayaan. Subalit kasabihan nga, nasa Diyos ang awa at nasa tao ang gawa. Huwag po tayong tutulog-tulog, Mr. Speaker. Let us be vigilant. Kung hindi, ay baka magising na lamang tayo isang umaga na hindi lang ang Scarborough Shoal ang kanilang kinuha, kundi ang ating buong bansa. With that, Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for the opportunity. Isa lamang po ang aking panawagan, Bangon, Pilipinas. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Daghang salamat. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to refer the speech of the Honorable Robert Ace Barbers to the Committee on Rules for its appropriate action.
Is there any objection? Chair hears none. The privileged speech of the Honorable Ace Barbers is hereby referred to the Committee on Rules. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we recognize the Honorable Loreto Acharon of the Lone District of General Santos City to avail of the privilege hour.
The Honorable Loreto Acharon is recognized to avail of the privilege hour.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Majority Leader. Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, magandang hapon po sa ating lahat. In April 14, 2008, the Philadelphia Inquirer, a newspaper based in Pennsylvania, USA, published a transcript of an interview with then-Senator Barack Obama on the question of whether an Obama administration would seek to prosecute officials of the Bush administration on allegations of green-lighting torture and for other potential high crimes that supposedly took place in the White House. Then Senator Obama responded, and I quote, "If I found out that there were high officials who knowingly, consciously broke existing laws, engaged in cover-ups of those crimes with knowledge up front, then I think a basic principle of our Constitution is nobody is above the law." Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues, the same principle of the supremacy of a basic law is dictated in no uncertain terms in our Constitution, ratified, ordained, and promulgated in 1987, and that is to secure to ourselves and our posterity the blessings of independence and democracy under the rule of law and a regime of truth and justice. Furthermore, Section 27 and 28 of Article 2 of the 1987 Philippine Constitution mandates that honesty and integrity in the public service shall be maintained, that positive and effective measures against graft and corruption must be taken, and that subject to reasonable conditions prescribed by law, a policy of full public disclosure of all transactions made by the state for and in behalf of the state, by government, for government, and by any and all of its agents involving public interest must be adopted and implemented. This makes it very clear, therefore, that as a fundamental pillar of democratic governance, transparency and accountability are indispensable concepts grounded on the principle that public office is a public trust. It is in this context that I rise today, Mr. Speaker, and my dear colleagues, in a matter of personal privilege, that I call on our collective attention on the widening disconnect between the public's demand for greater transparency while continuing to hold on to the misconception that our exercise of the function of legislative oversight is an execution of an elaborate and grand scheme of political persecution and an individual grandstanding. While there is no specific provision in our Constitution that expressly grants oversight powers to Congress, our power of the purse and our power to review appropriations implies oversight functions. As an institutional fiscalizer under the check and balance principle, our oversight role in curbing graft and corruption calls for the effective use of public resources and promoting transparency and accountability in government operations cannot be written off. Likewise, our constitutional power to create, abolish, and reorganize government agencies, confirmation of executive appointments, and the power of impeachment presupposes the overall power of legislative oversight. On hindsight, it is unfortunate that congressional inquiries and investigations in aid of legislation more often than not are perceived by some to be more motivated by political considerations rather than an honest-to-goodness desire to bring about greater accountability and efficiency in the utilization of public resources. Our voices get lost and overwhelmed by the multitude of disinformation enablers that distort and manipulate the public's understanding of reality, and in many instances, the medium that they use become tools and venues for harassment and aggression in their efforts to suppress the truth. In the words of the Honorable Speaker, and I quote, "These are attempts to erode the public's trust in this institution, to sow division and create chaos. We choose unity over division, dialogue over conflict, and cooperation over confrontation. Those entrusted with public funds must be prepared to explain where it was disbursed and how these resources were utilized. Instead of providing clarity, we have seen attempts to shift the narrative, to create distractions, and to fabricate stories." Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues, Section 1 of Article 11 of the 1987 Constitution is very clear that public officers and employees must at all times be accountable to the people. Notwithstanding what position an individual holds, this provision sets down in plain and clear language that as government officials and employees, whether they be the highest in the land or the lowliest public servants, shall at all times be answerable for their misconduct to the people from whom government derive its powers. Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues, issues surrounding questionable disbursement of public funds demand answers because accountability is not optional and transparency is not negotiable. To allow them a free pass is an affront to every Filipino who ascribes to the rule of law, the sanctity of our Constitution, and the foundation of representative democracy. This is about preserving the integrity of the House of Representatives and ensuring that we remain a strong and credible voice for the Filipino people. Again, Borrowing the words of the Honorable Speaker, ang laban na ito ay hindi tungkol sa amin, kung hindi para sa ating bayan at sa kinabukasan ng bawat Pilipino. Maraming salamat po at magandang hapon sa ating lahat.
Thank you very much. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to refer the speech of the Honorable Loreto Acharon to the Committee on Rules for its appropriate action.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The privileged speech of the Honorable Acharon is hereby referred to the Committee on Rules. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we terminate the privilege hour.
Is there any objection? Chair hears none. The motion is approved. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to designate the following members of the Conference Committee on the disagreeing provisions of House Bill number 11113 and Senate Bill number 2555, rationalizing the safety measures and penalties relative to the operation of motorcycles. Representative Romeo Acop, Representative Julian Jambaronda, Representative Bobo Portes, Representative Ramon Rodrigo Gutierrez, and Representative Sergio Daguo. So move, Mr. Speaker.
There is a motion to designate the aforementioned members to the said conference committee. Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The motion is approved. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we suspend session until tomorrow, December 17, 2024, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So move, Mr. Speaker.
Is there any objection? Chair hears none. Session is suspended until tomorrow, December 17 at 3 p.m.